just set up a few key reminders of myself, and then we'll get started. All right, I'm going to say got it on here. Got it. Now we're recording. So welcome. I'm Jen Sachs, for those who don't know me. I am an astrologer being. I'm not sure if I've ever really studied astrology. I've just been kind of like reminded of my gifts as I've learned astrology through life. And to me, astrology has always been far more than just a sun sign. Even growing up a young gal in the Midwest, whenever I don't know who was on this like daily show, but he would sing, good morning, star shine, and then he would have a star sign zodiac every day. And I remember always watching this guy thinking, there's way more to what he's saying than there is. So kind of like the basics, and I'm going to go over some basics, just some technical stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just to kind of like set up the structure of astrology. So there are 10 planets. And for those who are astronomers, in astrology, we call the sun and moon planets, knowing that they're not actual planets. And the planets are the energy that is being activated. So the sun is our identity, it's our personal creativity and the ego itself. The moon is going to be it's our nurturing abilities. It's how we are conditioned to either react or respond to a situation and trigger, not the trigger itself, and then so on. So we have personal planets that change every month to 2 years. Those are going to be Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And then we have generational planets that go through the zodiac sign between every 12 to 250 years. And those are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And then we also have Chiron, which is not technically a planet, it's an asteroid, but it brings in a lot of it just adds to the wholeness of the chart due to it being kind of the storyteller of our life. So Chiron is our wounded healer. It is what affected us as a child to make us question ourselves and our gifts and how we are to strengthen ourselves through that. Now, talking about re-anchoring, recasting our anchor. What does this mean? Well, I'm bringing this up because what is happening with the full moons on August 11th is the sun is going to be in Leo. Opposing that is going to be the moon in Aquarius. And then at 90-degree angles, we have the north and south node in Scorpio and Taurus. And all four of those zodiac signs are fixed qualities in astrology. And the fixed qualities are the middle of the season. Kind of to go over the qualities, we have the cardinal qualities, which are the beginning of seasons. So those are the beginning of spring, Aries, the beginning of summer, Cancer, the beginning of fall is Libra, and the beginning of winter is Capricorn. And then the fixed is going to be the following months after that. And then mutable are the final signs before we go back into the next season. And so back to being fixed. So fixed being in the middle of the season, it knows the season it's best. I know where I am. I know what this is. I am full and confident and stubborn with this quality, with this element. And all four of these zodiac signs cover all of the elements of sun, moon, water, and air. So here we have these four zodiac signs, which are the expression of the planets. In these four different fixed signs, knowing exactly who they are in their season, but in different elements. So there's also this conflict of understanding of how each other works. And this conflict isn't to, just start fights and to be okay with fights and to just, and to just allow them to happen. But there is an element of elevating yourself into problem solving due to what is being brought into you from the other. How does this structure your own life? Okay, so So with all of that, are there any questions so far? I know I kind of went over all the technical stuff right away to kind of like get that out of the way. If there's no questions, I will carry on. So I want to start off with the demanding energy, which is building, and demanding is another keyword for fixed energy. And to do that, I want to bring up the new moon in Taurus chart here. And can I share my screen? Someone remind me how to do that. I am so sorry. It's probably right in front of my face. I'm so sorry. Can someone remind me how to
Did you
share
find
my?
it?
I did
Are you
not.
on desktop?
Yes.
It should be along the bottom. There's some options like mute, stop video, participants chat, and then next is share screen.
The green one. I'm so sorry. Every single time, it's like my brain can't pick up that it's a different color. Okay. Share screen. Me. I'm the one. Pick me. Share. Okay. And can you all see my screen?
It's working.
Yay. Okay. So here we go. Here is the chart. For August 30th, this was a Saturday, 1:27 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And how is this energy building? I want to talk about what happened then and kind of what's happening, moving forward into where we are now. So this was the first moon cycle of the nodes. Boy, I got more technical stuff to throw at you. But here we have, and I'm going to kind of like have my cursor. So here's the north node in Taurus, and then opposing that is the south node in Scorpio. And the nodes will always be opposing of each other because what they are is an illuminated karmic path. And it's not a planet itself, it's a mathematical point based on the moon. I'm not sure how it gets there. I just know that it's effective. So whenever a new or full moon happens within 15 degrees, so here we have the new moon in Taurus at 10 degrees, and within 15 degrees, we have the north node. So when that happens within 15 degrees of a node, it's called an eclipse. And when an eclipse happens, what it does is it just magnifies whatever the new or full moon is doing. And there is a lot of like desire and drive to want to initiate things when this happens. And during eclipses, because there is such intensity and power of the universe that is igniting and electrocuting us with change, I feel, in my practice and what I like to preach to others too, is it's more of an opportunity to ground yourself and to come into understanding as to what your role actually is. Because anything that is initiated at the time is going to have massive effects. But because the universe is communicating us in such a way, our human brains might not be able to comprehend or understand. So this is more of an opportunity for us to kind of collect ourselves. So what was going on here is we had the sun and the moon in conjunction, and the angles, which includes the conjunction. The angles in astrology are the relationships between these planets. So when a conjunction happens, it is the beginning of a cycle, and cycles can be anywhere between 30 days to 250 years. So the sun and moon in Taurus here, it is a new beginning in understanding what our resources is, what our personal value is in those types of subjects. So it's a very, very personal. And Taurus is stubborn for the sake of being stubborn, where all signs are stubborn for different reasons. Taurus is just, it just is. If you ever tell a Taurus to do something and they didn't come up with the idea or whatever it is, they're going to, I'm just going to stay where I am until I decide to move. Yeah, very, very, very patient inducing they are, and not just with themselves, but they demand patience from others. So also it's a 4-degree orb, but we have Uranus here, this blue planet. And Uranus is an outer planet, so it's a generational planet, but it's because these planets move so slowly, it takes 80 years for Uranus to go all the way around the chart. Because Uranus moves so slowly, it has like a dragging effect with its lessons. Whereas the sun and moon is like, oh, the sun and moon built to a new moon, built to a full moon. I felt this energy building, and then I saw it drop. Whereas with the outer planets, we kind of like really just feel this like just slow turn. Uranus is individuality, the eclectic. Boy, am I not remembering a very common word for myself. But excuse me, it's eccentric, it's unusual, it's unconventional. And it does so because it wants us to invent new ways to do things. So anytime somebody tells you like, oh, that's such a crazy idea, or you're so unique in how you do that, or why, and people have a confusion as to why you're doing something, but you need to do it that way. Those are going to be the Uranus qualities. And because of this, he's also revolutionary. And he's a very neutral planet who just wants change. He wants us to do things in a new way. He wants us to understand things as a whole concept. So, things that happen that could be perceived as negative or perceived as positive, Uranus just wants us to take it as a lesson in understanding so that we are able to problem solve and be more effective going forward. So here we have Uranus, the individual, with the sun and moon in Taurus, the resources. And there was a major movement of the Great Resignation. Lots of people quit their jobs this week, lots of people reconsidering that. And, and what was really happening this weekend was, building up to and for the rest of through July 2023, I would see. But what's happening is there is this theme of what my value creates and the value that my creation receives. So if people are going to work every day and they're not receiving the benefits that they should, they're not receiving the quality of life that they deserve outside of that work, then people are not going to really put up with that right now. But especially that weekend, there was just a lot of movement that happened with that. Now, another conjunction that I want to talk about is right here. We have Jupiter, the gray, and Neptune, this teal one at the bottom. Those are both outer planets as well. And then the personal planet is going to be right here in the middle. Got to keep it personal in the middle, We have Venus. So Jupiter is the wisdom and truth. He is expansive. He is also excessive. And what Jupiter wants us to do is to take what is excessive to us, where our privilege is basically, and to cultivate wisdom by giving. He wants, Santa Claus is ruled by Jupiter. If you believe in Santa Claus, I'm not that you believe, really, but Santa Claus is a Jupiter keyword because he has abundance and he gives. And then we have Neptune here, and Neptune is idealism. It is the collective unconscious, and it's healing through spiritual practices. It's also religion and spirituality. And Venus is women, our finances, and our personal value. And what this is right here, this is everybody's feeling of this higher evolution. We're hearing very common within conversations about, where we're upgrading. We're upgrading as a energy, as a people, and as an earth. And it is this conjunction right here with happening on the new moon. And what ultimately is being asked of us here is that we start to cultivate a self-trust and a self-wisdom within ourselves. Not to necessarily like hold ourselves higher than other people, but to understand that the wisdom that we have had since before we came into this earth and we brought it to us as a spiritual being into our physical bodies is a truth worth building on. Now, where this can have a disalignment is the Christian nationalism that we're seeing right now, trying to convince others that their spirituality is wrong, or their way of loving others is pedophilic, or that sort of thing. It's like they're trying to take the truth, twist it in order to control others and profit off of it. So that's the energy that's been building. Now let's go to the Aquarius full moon happening August 11th. I've said this already, August 11th. So before I really touch on this chart, I want to talk again about the north and south node. So this is the south node. The south node, it looks more like a cup, like it's already received. And then the north node we have down here, it's more like it's kind of like a springboard, like it's something you have to work up towards. So the south node is what, again, kind of something that we have an understanding of, something that's easy for us to be in connection with, and what is available for us to reflect on in order for us to move forward with. And being in Scorpio, Scorpio is it's secrets. So we're seeing a lot of secrets come out right now. We're seeing a lot of like, especially like court things happening with all the secret stuff that was happening last year, whenever the nodes were in the signs of information. So any disinformation last year, the secrets are coming out this year. So anyways, back to the South Node being in Scorpio. So we are, what's being available for our awareness is the trauma that's been induced on us, the effects that it's had on our personal power, the resources that we share with others, especially like universal health care and that sort of thing, and how it's affecting us, and not just affecting us on an individual level, but how our personal power is affecting others outside of us. And the opportunity to reflect on these qualities, which a lot of people can perceive as negative, it's just psychological, and it's therapeutic. And whenever we start to do this with ourselves, the work that is being asked of us to put effort into is to develop a healthy sense of our personal power, even through all the trauma that we've experienced as individuals. I'm going back to Uranus because he's a big key player in all this. And then we need to apply effort to the North Node in Taurus. And Taurus is resources, individual personal power. And what's happening here is ultimately, it's how are we using our secretive power of Scorpio so that everybody has individual resources in Taurus. How can we make sure everybody's fed, cleaned, and feels loved? And it's a security issue. And what Taurus and North Node wants us to kind of understand and achieve is, even though we don't understand the personal value of others or what others are trying to achieve, is that there is enough food, shelter, and finances for everybody to feel safe, for everybody to have a comfortable springboard to live their lives effectively. Let me get some water here real quick. Okay, do we have any questions so far? Can't really see everybody, but okay. So that is, again, that's the energy that's building. And I just kind of want to reiterate that. What is going on here? So we had Venus, Neptune. So we have Neptune down here. Still, it's in Pisces, going to be in Pisces for a few more years. Jupiter is now in Aries, going retrograde back into Pisces. He'll be in Pisces between October and I think right before Christmas again for about 6 weeks. But now Jupiter it's expanding our individuality and our bravery. And because it is now conjunct Chiron, so here's our wounded healer. So we are asking to be brave with our wounds in order to, again, make sure everybody is fed and has the proper resources so that we can develop our personal power in a very fortifying and lasting way. And now we will have Venus at the time. She's still in Cancer, but we will have Venus at the time in Leo when this full moon happens. And even though she's not in conjunction with, or she's not in alignment with the full moon, she is in a very wide orb conjunction with this asteroid right here called Ceres. So here we have Venus, who again is the mother. I'm sorry, more of the feminine. The mother is going to be more the moon and also Ceres. But she's a feminine. She's our personal value and resources. And I'm not sure I need to go into too much detail, but women's rights are a big theme this year, and it's because Venus has a very close relationship to all of these major alignments that we have going on, while the North and South Node are in Venus, are in Scorpio and Taurus. But here we do have Venus, who has again, a wide orb conjunction with the asteroid Ceres, and Ceres is the mother. This is how we nurture, whereas the moon is more so what we need in terms of nurturing. Ceres is very much how we nurture. So we're going to start to see, if we haven't already, how we nurture our finances. How is it that we're nurturing our individual law of attraction? How is it that we're nurturing the feminine qualities of ourselves so that we're not all stuck in this toxic masculinity survival skill that we need in order to live in capitalistic societies? Talk a lot about this capitalistic stuff in my work. It's anyways, I'm trying to change it. So that's just going to be a key theme. So with all this fixed energy, as we're changing here, it's really showing where we are anchored. Where in order to find where we are anchored, look at where your arguments are with other people, with yourself. And this is, yes, the self-doubts, but it's the self-doubts that leads to, why would you do that to yourself? Or what, it's that like argument that you have on an individual level. And those are the points where you're going to be able to really see what needs to change, either within yourself or around you. So anytime you're in an argument, if you have the ability within the argument to kind of like choose to step back, choose to reflect, and use tools such as, this is, redevelop the objective with the other person or yourself. What is the objective of the argument? And come to an agreement with that. And lots of, as you're discussing and how to get there, it's, I heard you say to go left, and then there's going to be a bus stop on the right, and that's where I'm going to find it. Is that correct? And the other person's like, I actually said right, and I don't know where you got the bus stop from, but so it's just kind of like lots of back and forth and reevaluating. And whenever we are able to start to develop relationships with, whenever we start to have these conversations, we can start to see if either the other person is not being effective for us on a personal level, if there are things on a personal level that we could be more effective of. How can we listen as much as we speak and put in our ideas? And then also, is this an opportunity to advocate? And I'm saying that here because Chiron is in Aries, has been in Aries since 2018, and will be, I think, for like 8 more years. He's in a sign for a long time. And Chiron to me is the self-advocator. This is my wound. Aries is the self. This is what I need to speak up for. And I don't see him as an advocator like I'm advocating for myself. I'm advocating for myself. It's all about me. It's things like a doctor misused their skills on you. So you end up speaking up to the doctor was rude to you again. So you made a complaint about the doctor, and then something happened to that doctor. So ultimately, your self-advocating for yourself could have been effective for so many other people that doctor would have seen. So again, we are starting to understand this very grounded and earthy and rooted quality of what it is that we use our energy for. What is it that we're immovable on? And what do we want to achieve with these actions, with our actions? And the thing about the fixed energy is it's not just how are we immovable in terms of this is my idea, this is my plan, I'm sticking with it. But it's also how are we immovable, as in I can't even get a project started because I'm so stuck in what happened to me that I have fears moving forward. I don't know how to move forward. And those are the immovable qualities to just really take action on right now. So let's, any questions? Dun, dun. So I had talked about the eclipse earlier. And whenever the north and south node happen within the 15 degrees of a new or full moon, that's an eclipse. And whenever the eclipse is squaring a full moon or a new moon, that means we're right in the middle of eclipse season. So everything that happened on August 30th is really kind of starting to come to a head of an understanding of what is actually happening and what our personal placement is within it. So if work's not working out for you, if relationships are not as effective as what you would want them to be, or they're not as fluid, all of this should be coming to a head right now. And right now, because we're in the middle of the eclipse, it's going to feel kind of like, gosh, I have all of this and I want to move. I don't know how. And that's okay. And I just kind of want to like support everybody in understanding that it's not the time to know. The thing to know right now is what's not working, what is working, and what the personal role is within it. And this has a lot to do with not just personal relationships, but also relationships with how we practice our spirituality. Again, because of all the Pisces conjunction with the new moon in Taurus. It's a relationship that we have with our spirituality, with our religion, with our community, with our work, and with our government. And I'm saying all this because here we have the moon. Moon is conjunct Saturn, and Saturn is structures and ambition. And he is not going to be in Aquarius for very long. He's been in Aquarius since George Floyd. He had just moved there whenever George Floyd. And again, Rodney King, 30 years before, is whenever he just moved in. So it's like every time Aquarius moves in, or Saturn moves into Aquarius, we have this very clear understanding of the structures built for around the other. So Aquarius it's building structures for the other. A lot of Aquarius, I worked in the service industry for forever, and I always found out somebody's sun sign like as quickly as possible. And anytime I knew that somebody was Aquarius, I knew that they weren't going to last very long, because an Aquarius doesn't want to be a server. An Aquarius wants to be the COO or the CEO. Like, they're the ones telling people what to do. It's like I have a lot of Virgo. I can sit there, I can do service work all day long and feel successful, but that doesn't work for Aquarius. So, here we have structures. So whenever I'm going back to these human rights situations that happen whenever Saturn moves into Aquarius, and this uprising happens every time Saturn moves into Aquarius as like hey, you guys got to get it together. There are people in this world who are not supported, who are not safe, and who are not actually part of the resolution. And Aquarius, as detached as it might be, there is this detachment in order to be broad, in order to apply a role for everybody. Again, going back to, they want to be the leaders. There is an intuition with the Aquarius that comes in through the mind. It's that first idea. It's I have this great idea, and I'm going to move forward with it. And then there is this ability of building information based on those ideas, and then problem solving moving forward from that. There's a chat. Also seems like a time of year when companies do a lot of reorgs. Yes. Yes, actually, yeah. Yes, because we have the end of January and then the first 3 weeks of February. So there's like a quarter thing going on. I was never in management. I just have the patience to put up with management stuff and have people micromanage me. I needed to micromanage my tables, that was my goal. But yes, again, it is a time of like, what is being effective so that everybody can have a supportive role. So because Saturn in Aquarius, again, what's the structure for everybody? What's the structure for the broadness of humanity? It's conjunction with the moon. So here we have it's how we react to our triggers. So the trigger is going to be Pluto. Pluto is the abuse and the psychological abilities, the Scorpio as well. But the moon is how we react or respond to these triggers. So if we're sitting here and we're just reacting to all of these structural situations, oh, my boss said this, oh, my relationship partner said this, oh, my father, lots of father and mother energy here, or my parents said this, and there's no reflective responsibility, then we're just going to stay stuck with the same triggers moving forward, just having reactions. we can choose to see where we are constantly being reactive by having self-reflection qualities, journaling, tarot, astrology, allowing yourself to daydream a little bit as you're going to sleep, those types of things. That gives a space to breathe, to bring an understanding, and to also bring an awareness to the patterns of these situations that are in our life already. And there we can start to apply more of a responsive answer. We can have more breath when these situations happen, more understanding and compassion, not just for ourselves, but also the other. I'm not saying that you need to agree with everybody here, but just to have compassion that we are all kind of like stuck in this physical matrix trying to fulfill some sort of role. And again, we, with the religious and spiritual conjunction that happened in alignment with the new moon in Taurus, right now there is this like, I feel like there's a sense of desperation for having for having control over spiritual alignment and over our personal truths. And on the opposite of this desperation is also kind of, it's a surrendering. It's a surrendering and not understanding fully, not knowing fully, but just having this ability to connect with the personal intuition that we either find in our belly, in our hearts, or in our brain, and to trust what our intuition is telling us and what our intuition has always told us. And this can also bring up a lot of like guilt and shame, again, because religion and upbringing is such like a key theme for the rest of this year, again into 2023. But all of this guilt and shame is it's not being brought up in order for you to feel terrible about yourself, or for us to feel terrible about ourselves. It's being brought up in order for us to move through that, and to know that on the other side of the shame, to move through it with forgiveness, excuse me. So as we move through this shame with forgiveness, that there's brilliance and diamond effective energy on the other side. And it's not just, we need to go through this trauma in order to achieve things. It's things that happen to me on an individual level that I perceive as trauma, and we all have them. Let me get some more water, I'm sorry. And then those are my responsibility to practice the self-forgiveness and to move through, and this is where Taurus is great on being stubborn, because Taurus is, it's like, I am going to move through this shame, and I'm going to stick to self-forgiveness. And I don't care what is told to me, what is said to me, how my dad or mom talks to me, even though they've talked to me for forever in the same way. And I keep telling them, what my boundaries are, and they're never supportive of it. Whenever we're moving through the shame with the self-forgiveness, on the other side, there is a brilliance of understanding, and to hold space for the mother and the father in a self-compassionate way, and to kind of just see these things that are triggering and traumatizing to us in a way of detachment. And I'm not saying that, like, if there's a negative situation in your life happening, please deal with it. I'm not trying to like gaslight anybody to not deal with anything happening in their life or that has happened. But whenever it comes time to process, that if we are able to move through it, we are able to see the brilliance of who it is that we truly are. Because what I'm speaking on is it's the hidden power that motivates us to have these reactions and responses. And whenever we are able to move from reactions to responses, we are able to move through the shame. We are able to connect with what our hidden power actually is. And that's where alchemy can prevail. Any questions? Find my outline again.
Can you repeat that last sentence, just so I'm kind of absorbing it? I'm not sure I did.
So there is repeat the last sentence. When we are able to move from our reactions to our responses, And when we are able to cultivate an understanding of our shame and to move through that with self-forgiveness, on the other side is we are able to connect with our alchemy. And that's where our true power and potential can really shine and create. Perfect. Now, and again, this is going to have to do with our structures. Our structures are going to have a lot of, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to see our reactions and responses in terms of how the structures are built in our life. Now I'm going to kind of come over here to the three planet conjunction here that we have for this full moon. So here we have the south node, I'm sorry, the north node. We have Uranus again and Mars. And the exact conjunction was last Sunday, I believe. But this plays a big part. Uranus has a big part this year. So what this conjunction has done and is doing and will do for the rest of the year is so again, Uranus is the individual, Mars is our action and also our anger. And then again, the north node is what it is that we need to actively and consciously move towards. And whenever the three of these planets happens, this conjunction happens, there is typically I've recently discovered that there's like something happens with a woman in power. So I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out for, at some point this year. But it's with it being in Taurus, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for us to see the toxic masculinity that has been ingrained again in our structures. So that's a square right there. So we have the 90-degree angle between the sun and the moon and Taurus, the moon and Saturn, I apologize, and then this 3-planet angle as well. And whenever there is a 90-degree angle, it is called a square. And this square is kind of like they're going towards the same objective. They just don't understand the movement between how the other person is going towards that objective. Again, it's like the Christians and the spiritualists just wanting to worship the way that they do, but there's this like disagreement as to how they're approaching it. So, one side might be more argumentative than the other, and that might be perspective, but that's kind of like what's happening right here. So I just feel like we're just going to see a lot of opportunities to see where how we use our masculine qualities as a person, how the structures are using the masculine qualities to I want to say control. I don't want to say support people because I'm not sure people as a whole feel supported around the globe right now. It just seems more controlling. But also what it is that we want to do with our action and our energy, and what it is that our individual self wants to achieve, and what structures that our individual self wants to create. So I'm kind of a big advocate right now that this is a great time to connect with our communities. We can all vote for a president or for a leader of our country, but real change happens the change that affects us the most happens on a community level. So these are the structures I'm kind of advocating for people to do, whether you're signing up for a political office in your community, or you're going for a PTA role because you don't like how your child's school is structured, or a higher position at work because again people just aren't doing things right, and you just feel like there could be more benefit if coordinated more in a different way. So those are things to look out for. And again, also don't just look out for them in like, this is something I want and desire, but look out for them for the conflicts that you keep finding yourself in. I just feel like that this whole month, August is kind of an explosive month in general. And it's not just because it's so hot. There's just a lot going on in the astrological makeup. But this is a great time to see like what the theme is between our disagreements and our arguments with ourselves and in all the different situations around us. And especially try to connect them with what it is that you believe in and how you want to align your highest power. So there's a lot of like power issues with self and others going on again through July 2023. All right. Okay, any questions so far? Otherwise, I am just going to kind of like move on. I think I'm done with this screen thing. Now I need to get back to mute, stop video, blur background. So I want to get rid of my shared screen. Somebody help me with that.
Just hit the share screen button again, I think, to stop the share.
Again, it's the, okay. Boom.
Next to
Thank
chat.
you.
There you go.
There we go. I can see everybody. Or not. Some of you are on screen. So yes. Yes, I think ultimately kind of like it's, in the full moon, and I didn't really talk about like what the full moon is. I feel like that's kind of like, it's spoken about a lot, but it's basically when the sun is complete opposite the moon. And there's this opportunity to see what, the sun is our identity and the vitality that we have in regards to life. And the moon, again, is our nurturing and in our conditioning. So how it is that we are using one aspect in regard to the other. So how do we identify our nurturing skills within other people? How are we using our nurturing skills in order to cultivate personal creativity and a balanced ego in other people? So there's going to be a lot of opposition happening right now, building this week, and if it doesn't happen for you, because a lot of times an alignment doesn't really affect a person's chart, especially if there's no aspects in it in your natal chart. But even if it's not happening for you, you're going to be facilitating this for other people. You're going to hear friends talk about how, one person did this or vice versa. And, these conversations are going to be had. If anything, on an energetic level, you will be experiencing it through other people. Now, any questions?
I kind of have one. It's like it's more a general astrology question, but it might be related. So the concept, the theory is all these big planets and moons and stuff have some kind of spiritual energy and effect on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Earth is a planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, we're always here. It's always beneath our feet. So whatever its spiritual influence is would be constant throughout our lives. But what does Earth do? Like if I lived on Mars, how would Earth's relative position be affecting me?
Yeah, I love this question. So there is an Earth point in astrology, and it's not used often. And I am not sure why. It's not something I've ever used or have felt like I needed to. It just seems like, to me, it seems like I embody the Earth. So the Earth would be the planet because I'm coming from Earth. That like who I am is effectively going to be Earth. I'm absorbing that. Now, astrologers, we're already kind of like talking about moving forward. Assuming that we're going to live on other planets at some point. What's going to happen whenever we live on Mars? There's going to be a whole nother structure, and Earth is going to be part of that as well. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. It's going to be very interesting because Mars is, it's our energy, and it's also our anger, and it's anger due to it. Anger is excessive energy. So because, it's just Mars is just very go, 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 go. It's Aries. I need to always do something. I need to always go somewhere that I'm not. Even if I'm right here, I need to be thinking about somewhere else. So what's going to happen with something like Uranus on that planet? Is Uranus going to be more of like the sun? Are we going to, is that going to, represent more of our identity than what the sun, like the sun does here on Earth? So I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out. And it is a topic that we're preparing for as astrologers in our community. But again, it's, I classify astrology as a science, and I know like the science community has a hard time with that, because there has to be, in order for something to be a scientific fact, there has to be something that can be calculated and repeated, and then, calculated, repeated, so that they can
Make a
study the
prediction
effect
and
of
then
it.
test for it. Yeah.
Yes. And the issue with astrology is, because there's so many cycles in different signs, in different, and that have different like planets alignment with it, this specific, to repeat something to such a specific detail is very difficult. However, there are big themes that happen, every time there is a Pluto-Uranus square opposition. That's when we have these uprises that I was talking about, and Saturn seems to always be involved in those too. So yes. Did that answer your question?
So, so is basically the bottom line. The astrologists just don't have enough experience, enough data points to be like, well, this is how Earth's position would affect something. So they don't really know what Earth's is about.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Because we haven't seen humans live outside of Earth, really.
See how it would affect us being closer or farther or whatever. Yeah.
Correct. However, I am going to, after this, get all the astrology charts from astronauts and just see what was going on while they were in the sky.
That's a start. Yeah.
So, yes. Yeah. That's what I call that.
Yeah. And I mean, if one day we colonize like outside our entire solar system, we'd go to a whole new star host. I mean, now you're looking at completely new information.
Right.
Because I imagine other stars and other planets may like outside of our system may have some degree of influence on us, but it's so far away it might be negligible. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just curious if they knew, like, well, Gaia is always a nurturing energy or something. I didn't know if they had that much yet or not, but
yes. I mean, and in terms of Earth, there is Earth, we are going to see more as like a zodiac expression. So we have the Earth signs and then the planets that rule them. So the Earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, and then the planets that rule them are Venus, Mercury, and Saturn. Who, ironically, all three of those planets actually they have co-rulership with air signs, two air and a water. So it's almost like Earth is perceived in astrology as what we are, but also how we relate to others. So what's our, we're motivated to put this work and effort into cultivating more of an Earth equality, but there's another element to it.
right. And is that just because Earth represents what we are because that's where we are? So of course, that's going to be our point of reference. Yeah, I mean, there are no answers. Humans have not lived on other planets to see how Earth affects them or not. So I was just curious if they had any clues or suspicions, or they're like, well, everything else is covered except this one element, so that must be what Earth is. Like,
yeah, and Earth isn't necessarily seen as this as like super kind either. Earth, it's Earth, and the mother is also perceived as something that is that wants to change. And I don't want to say there's like also a punishing quality to it, but if an Earth sign doesn't want to help, it's almost like there's this, I'm going to help everybody around you, but not you, kind of a thing. So it's like Earth can also try to put you in a disadvantage if there's a lack of alignment.
interesting. Cool, thanks.
I'm an Earth sign, and that is definitely something I've had to work on. So, yes.
Cool.
All right, I'm gonna go over everything.
Yeah, I'm really resonating with this idea of focus on structures that we want to create in a lot of ways, a lot of areas.
Yes. And go ahead.
I was just going to say what I'm thinking about the most is the chaos at my work and the structures I need to create there. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, you brought up chaos. Chaos is Uranus.
Yep.
Uranus loves chaos. He just wants things to change. He's the electricity behind our nervous system. Mercury is the nervous system itself, but Uranus is the electricity behind our nervous system. So he's that like, I have to do this now. You know, it's that individual reaction to things. And yeah, and he wants chaos. He just wants us to change and to evolve as spiritual beings um, by going through different experiences. And something I did not mention but earlier about the conjunction that we're going through right now with the North Node, Mars and Uranus is I'm not sure if anybody does like work on like jumping timelines or jumping. This is kind of like a broader like woo-woo concept, but it seems as if there is like multiple realities happening at the same time. And I've kind of been joking over the last couple of years as I've gone through like super heavy personal transformation, you know, and I started saying to my partner, like, you know, somewhere there is a version of me living her best life. Because what I got going on is just constant, and it is heavy and it is not easy. And, you know, I'm not trying to like, woe is me. It's just like, Jesus Christ. So as I was like studying this conjunction that happened last Sunday with Uranus, Mars, and the North Node, I was like, this is a great time for us between then and through the rest of the year because Uranus is involved, and Uranus wants that electrical shock and to change us, to try to just, this is the timeline I live in. I live in the timeline where I'm living my best life. I'm in alignment with my highest self. I am, you know, I'm in control. I have a say, or just anything else that it is that we know we have in us that we're just having a hard time aligning with. So Uranus doesn't want us to think too hard. Like I was saying, he's that like, he's the intuitive mind. So he's that first thought that we should just go with and then collect information. He just really wants us to trust our brain and to trust what it is that we are actually here to do. So, you know, why not ask Uranus to just like shock us into the timeline of us living our best life? Because there are people, because what we focus on right now is what's going to change, is where we're going to re-anchor ourselves moving forward. And there's a lot of negativity and there's a lot of need to control others. Sorry, I was just thinking, you know, this whole, that's a whole nother topic. Let me just like, there's this need to control others right now, whether you're doing it, whether we're doing it ourselves or we're seeing it in other people. And, you know, what this energetic alignment, you know, happening throughout this whole year, it wants us to cultivate personal power and to look at our personal power and our resources and how is it that we're using it, and do we have like vindication in some sort of way that we're not really facing but is actually a hidden force for us that is just re-triggering us over and over again. So these are things to kind of like look at and to reevaluate and to reflect on ourselves personally. And then also to ask Uranus to kind of like shock us into that time frame of living our best life. What I do love about an Aquarius moon, and I'm a little jealous of Aquarius placements because I have none, is there is this detachment to what it is. And it's not like it's detached because it doesn't care. And I'm not even sure if detached is the best word. It's just something that people can relate to because it's so broad in having an understanding. It's like Aquarius can like look at this, like just look at the broadness of what something is, and then boom, here's the idea without understanding the details of it. And then that's where the problem solving starts to kind of cultivate with starting to understand what the details actually are.
I can relate to that.
Sure you can.
Well, I found all this interesting. I mean, I've definitely can relate to a lot of what you were describing. like earlier you mentioned like a feeling of stuck and not sure what the answers are, and but that's normal, that's to be expected right now. And the structure and how do we want things going forward, like that's literally what I've been very intensely focused on the past few days. Just been doing a lot of writing, journaling, and thinking about okay, exactly how do I want things to be structured and shaped, and what do I want to do and not do going forward. So yeah, it's kind of cool that it all just lined up.
It all lines up. Yeah, and it's going to build, and we're going to start to hear these conversations as the week moves forward, and even as the year moves forward. Like this is not, it's not going to go anywhere for at least another year, I would say. Yeah, because I mean, we're changing dramatically, and there's something about like empire changes every 250 years, and in 250 years is a Pluto cycle. And the United States is going through its Pluto return right now for the first time. So 250 years. So now the United States, what we're going through as a country, and I'm sorry if you're not in the United States country, and I don't mean to sound like an American here, but to me, it looks as if the United States has a lot of personal power in a lot of other countries and how other countries do things. So I think this effect happening in the United States right now is not just for us, but kind of like an example of what could possibly happen worldwide moving forward. So this 250-year change is it's a change of an empire, and and there's just a lot it just seems like we're more divided than ever as a country, or maybe we've always been this divided and now we're just finally seeing it. That's kind of what I'm sensing about us. And I guess there's really nothing else to say about that. There was. I don't remember what it was. I guess that was it. Start doing some yes, we do need to start doing some self-care for sure. You're welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you. I'm just seeing the chat. I'm sorry. Self-care and focus on itself for a while. Yes, yes. And again, and that's exactly what I feel like is happening kind of overall on a personal level, but also as a country, just because everything's lining up with this Pluto return. And is kind of a self-care. And it's not self-care as in like, I'm going to take a bubble bath and get a face massage and, twice a week. But it's self-care in terms of like, how can I, it's some woman in the Black Panther movement. And I wish I could remember her name and I feel bad, but she's the one that cultivated self-care as a concept as self-preservation. So self-care doesn't just look like a bubble bath, although it can be if that's what you need. It also looks like hydrating, water, educating yourself, activating for your community, activating rights for the education in for your kids. So
Sure.
again, self-care in terms of as a self-revolutionary act. God, I got really passionate about that. And I remember what I was talking about earlier. So, we're going through this Pluto return. So we're having the situation of looking at Pluto is literally its transformation. So it is the things that leave our body. So Taurus is the opposite of Scorpio. So Taurus is what we put into our body. So it's our food, it's the finances that we receive, it's the comfort of our home. So Taurus is the food that we put in, and Scorpio, the opposite, is it's the poop. It's the release of an orgasm. It's it's the finances that we are able to share with others, that we bring in through our work and then we give to others. But because it is all these things, it's also like the middle of it as well. So it's the darkness. So we're going to see kind of like the most deepest and darkest that America can be, which sounds great. But where I'm seeing a lot of hope is we have Mars going into Gemini either next week or the week after. And typically Mars is in a sign for about 6 weeks, unless it goes retrograde, and it goes retrograde every 2 years. So the last time it retrograde was the last half of 2020, when everything was on fire because it happened in Aries. And so Mars moving into Gemini right now, it'll be there until right now at the end of the month. It'll be in Gemini until I believe March of next year. So about 8 months. And whenever Mars is in Gemini, it's an opportunity to see what's going on, how our contracts. So Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign. So how are our contracts activating us? How are we activating our friendships? How are our friendships activating us? And also Gemini is community and gathering information so that we are able to build a better community. And it's the signing of contracts and how the contracts are affecting us and our actions that I'm really keeping an eye on, because all of these laws are being talked about right now. And because Mars is going to retrograde in Gemini towards the end of the year, I am excited to see the laws that are going to be rewritten. And this is also not just as like a country thing or a world situation, but also on individual levels. You know, what's the contract that we have with our higher self? What's the contract that we have with our partnerships and our the relationships that we have of all kinds? So these are going to be things that can kind of like reestablish as well. And also things will be brought up. A lot of like major Mercury retrograde energy, but Mars. So you know, if you missed signing on something, or you know, you've been trying to finish signing a contract, you know, like for me personally, I was raised LDS, and there's this organization called quitmormon.com, and all I had to do is like put it in, you know, just email it out, because I had the seal of, I can't remember what it's called, notarized. I had it notarized like a year ago, and I haven't actually sent it. And I'm like, apparently I'm not going to send it until Mars moves into Gemini. But things like that, we're going to start to see, you know, it's going to be able to have these opportunities to kind of finish up contracts that you never finished, or to reestablish contracts that were never fitting. So again, because resources and having value within our work and our work system, this could be a great time to negotiate what you make, to negotiate the time off or your insurance. And to go over those things as well. And not just with work, but also your insurance itself. Yeah, how you're taken care of. And then if you have any like memberships with food, I don't know, it might be a great time, you know, because of Taurus, this might be a great time to, you know, like HelloFresh. I'm not sure why this is being brought up to me, but maybe it can be helpful to somebody. But if you have something like HelloFresh, you know, in a month or two, it might be a great time to reach out and say, hey, I've been a client of yours for this long. Can we reestablish a new contract? And maybe I get a discount or something free or something along those lines. So again, remember to just always have the strength to self-advocate for yourself, and to use your intuition with it. And not just like your gut intuition, but keep that mental intuition as well.
So Mars is in Gemini at the end of August. Is that what you said?
Yes. Let me find the exact date. This won't take long. 2 weeks.
Interesting.
Yeah. So right now it is in Taurus, which is part of the fixed sign energy. So August 20th. So is that the day before, the day of? So about 36 hours before the sun goes into Virgo, Mars will move into Gemini. So that August 20th, that week, August, yeah, yeah, August 20th is a Saturday. So that week is going to be very mental. And right now too, right now, Mercury just moved into Virgo, which it loves for the most part. This is a really good time to kind of like list. So start making lists. And then, you know, whenever August 20th happens through the rest of the year, through beginning of March, because, you know, because of the Mars and Gemini, there is going to be dualities. So I'm not sure. Let me just kind of like, anyways, if you don't know what Gemini looks like, it's basically like 2 columns is what it is. And the symbol is the twins. And, you know, Apollo and Artemis, but they have this like, you know, ability to see the other. And I also relate conflict with Gemini as well. And not necessarily because like, oh, you know, screw you, here's a conflict, but the conflict in terms of like, here's a situation I don't understand. I'm conflicted by it. I'm going to go gather more information so that I'm able to to build my details on that, to build my structures. So I actually get really excited when Mars moves into Gemini, because it's almost like a glitch in the matrix happens quite a bit. So, you'll see like a cat, and then you'll take a few steps, and then you'll see the same cat, but it's not, it's a different cat, but you'll just kind of see the same thing happen over and over again. And I feel like that's a very tangible way for us to connect with Mars, and also to connect with what's the movement going on around us. Because when these glitches start to happen, just kind of take note. What were you thinking? What was the surrounding? What was being invited into your life or leaving your life? And that's going to kind of help you align with where the energies are trying to pull you, and also to build your strength. Because Mars is courageous. Mars gives us that extra energy so that we are angry enough to actually do something about it. And does the same thing go with multiple in numbers? You're welcome, Lynn. Yes. Yes. And and I'm not so sure if because Gemini works in pairs. So numbers like 44 is going to be more of a Gemini thing than 444. But because we had the Neptune-Jupiter conjunction, and I know in the chart that I showed you, Venus was involved in well, but Neptune-Jupiter conjunction, that happened in March of this year. That's where a lot of this like spirituality and wateriness and learning how to cultivate self-trust in your higher self right now is happening. So multiple numbers like 555 and 444, I would look to the Neptune-Jupiter conjunction that happens. And Jupiter will be moving, like I said, back into Pisces in October. And that type of situation is going to just be highlighted then. Because it's going to be in Pisces for, just like I said, about 6 to 8 weeks, and then it's going to move forward back into Aries again. And that's the last time it's going to be in Pisces for 12 years. So it wants to be very effective. Going back to Jupiter and Pisces, Jupiter is one of the rulers of Pisces. And it just really wants us to expand the knowledge that we have within our intuition and ourself, and to love ourselves, and to use our gifts to be of service to others in terms of healing the subconscious. It's that Jupiter and Pisces is a feeling of I'm healing myself so that I can heal the world type of a thing. So some might call it selfish. I'm being so selfish that I'm taking care of myself and I'm aligning myself. But my ultimate goal is actually I'm healing myself so that it's easier for the energy of existence. But yeah, just to kind of answer your question, 555, 444 would be more of the Jupiter Neptune, and the 44 is going to be Mars in Gemini. And you're also going to feel the difference too, where the Mars in Gemini with the 4-4, you're going to kind of feel more physically. And then the 555, 444 numbers is going to be more of like a just kind of like more out there, sparkly, spiritual feel to it. Do you have any thought about how to line? Okay, so this line gauge thing, I put a lot of thought into this week because Sherry brought it up. Because it's not normally something I get into. I'm not sure why. It just hasn't been something that I connect with, although I have a lot of information. And I'm actually going to read a little response that I had to a group chat that I was in, because I do. Let me see if I can find it. I've had a lot of conversations. Yes, so I do know that the Lionsgate happens on August 8th, which is the middle of the summer eclipse and the fall eclipse. So it's kind of like the heat of the summer. And then, I'm sorry, this is like, we've had a lot of talk. Here it is. Okay, so and I might say this mythological creature's name wrong, but Perseus killed Medusa, and he did so in order to save his mother. In order to save his mother from having to marry a god that she did not want to. He killed Medusa by using the shield of Athena, Venus in astrology, to reflect Medusa's image back to her. Also, something from Hermes and Hades, which are Mercury and Pluto, were involved as well. And then moving into the astrological conjunction of the Mars-Uranus North Node, and I had mentioned how that can sometimes come with a falling of a female leader. And then the combination of the astrology, Lionsgate, and the mythology of how women are being treated, especially in regards to our body autonomy in the world. I'm really interested to see what happens during this meteor shower, because there's a meteor shower that always happens, which is where Perseus comes from. It's the Perseids meteor shower, I believe is what it's called.
Perseids.
Thank you. And the Perseids peaks August 13th, which is just, a day and a half after the full moon, and has a lot of fixed and middle energy to it already. So in terms of like Lionsgate in general, I don't really have anything to really speak on that, other than it's like the middle of the fixed energy, which is kind of like what we have going on right now. I feel like this fixed energy is very highlighted in this full moon chart. But I think with everything in combination with the mythology of it, because that's really all astrology is. It's just cycles of mythology stories that are happening within our lives. And how Perseus wanted to save his mother, which is the moon, which is also Venus, from what she had to do to, appease a man god. So the higher structures, the patriarchy, and how he used Athena's shield to basically reflect Medusa's image onto herself. So I'm interested to see how there's going to be themes and storylines of how people are going to use other people's reasons against them. My battery is running low. Just a second. So I'm just interested to see that, especially since I might have to like my thing here. Why is this? Oh, because it's not plugged in. That's why. But I'm just interested to see how that plays out, especially with Mars being in Gemini, and the Gemini is the the twins, so they reflect each other. What's happening? There's another thing, I can't remember what it was. Oh, and then there's one more thing happening in general that's kind of like wrapping up. Is last year the theme was Uranus square Taurus, and it happened all last year. And when this happens, we start to see like old versus new. So old structures versus new, but then also old sayings versus new sayings. Like the anti-maskers were saying like, my body, my choice. Whereas like human rights activists were using, as a phrase I can't remember, but they were using like, it's almost like these phrases were being used against each other. So then at the beginning of this year, that alignment came out of an orb. But a few weeks ago, it went back into it's going to become very, very close back into an exact point election week. So the first week of November. So we're going to kind of start to see that. And although it's not going to be as dramatic as the theme of last year, it does kind of tie in. And because this alignment's not going to happen for like 8 more years, there might be some dramatic situations that come from it. And I think, again, that kind of has to do with Perseus using Athena's shield to kind of like, I'm using you against you. And it's not even I'm using you against you, but I want you to see what it is that you're actually putting out there. And I want you to absorb that yourself. So again, it's not just like I'm in the right here, so I'm going to use my shield so that you can see. It's going to happen to all of us on individual levels also. So just pay attention to also like our ego. What's driving our ego? Is there this like righteousness to us? And the answer is yes. So the question is, where is it, and where does that show up, and how is that affecting us, and how, so to kind of like take control of that. So it's almost as if like I would say like take Athena's shield to take a look at yourself before somebody does it to us in terms of self-defense, or to save their mother, or to save somebody who's important to them. Lots of opportunity for self-reflection and what our personal power actually creates is happening.
I'm laughing because it's been happening this week at work. I don't know if Steven's still listening, but where we had hired Microsoft to do this consulting gig for us, and it's been a big challenging mess, and they sent multiple emails this weekend blaming it all on us, I mean, complete CYA in every direction, and just caused a lot of chaos that way. And I was called to set things a little bit more factually based. And now and what's hilarious is, as you were speaking, I'm also being called to institute a bunch of structure that wasn't there before, because we were like, well, you're Microsoft, you know how to do these gigs.
Right.
So, it's just funny. It's all reflecting everything you're saying.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
She handled herself well. She handled herself very well. Yes.
I have no doubt in that.
Thank you. Yeah,
No doubt in that.
good times. Well, I think we need to conclude and wrap things up.
Any last minute questions or anything else I wasn't exactly clear on? I can do that. Well, thank you, everybody. Hopefully this was helpful.
So helpful. Thank you so much, Jen. We love your
Thank you,
wisdom.
Lynn. Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Thank you, Jen.
great.
I went fast.
Appreciate it.
You're like, oh, I'm not fully prepared. And you just like rattled off a whole bunch of content.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I
loved it.
appreciate
I
that.
absolutely loved it.
Thanks.
Yes.
you
Thank
had
you.
whatever more preparing you thought you needed. Clearly it's internalized. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I really thank you. So thank you.
Yeah, this was a really, really good Sunday time that I can say that I've spent. And the only thing that's been better than this is the reading you gave me, because it was so spot on. But your passion and your drive comes through. Your energy is evident. There is no question about where you come from as a genuine spot. So thank you for sharing.
I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody.
Have you considered holding little small in-person gatherings where you're like actually teaching like a workshop, seminar, or whatever? Like people come and like this, but in real life with more people.
Yes. And that's part of my, I have developed a lot of SOPs this week. Thank you, Sherry, for a little tip on that. And yes, and I'm like full-fledged starting my business now. It's official, it's going in. So I'm doing all the like SOP stuff right now. And that is something I want to do. I'm not sure how exactly.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure you'll
course, like,
figure out the details. Yeah.
Yeah, like a new and
But
full moon, that's obvious, but I'm like, I'm not sure. I feel like that's so available. So we'll see.
oh, and I imagine you'd have a whole series of topics, but yeah, I mean, I see the passion, I see the expertise and knowledge, the desire to help others through it. So I can see you doing very well at this should you pursue it.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I mean that, yeah. So I mean, one of my gifts is recognizing people's gifts and talents and strengths in themselves. And I'm just saying, like, it sounds like this is something you want to do. You want to explore down that path. And I see you. I think it's a good fit. I think you do well.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you. I just feel like a little vulnerable right now. I was very uncertain before all this started.
Well, and that's why, and this is great because this is a safe space. It's with people you know and love and trust, right? And it's just over Zoom, but that's the baby step building up to the bigger things. Yeah.
Exactly.
This helps you build that confidence and prove to yourself I can do this.
Totally.
So you're right on
Thank you.
track. You should be doing what you're doing right now. And then, but yeah, I can see this growing.
Thanks. Me too. That personal power, all the trauma and abuse. I
And
gotta like work.
Rebecca
good
totally
consensus
agrees
there.
with me.
Yeah, exactly. David's spot on. I like his gift.
And then, oh, I
Well.
lost her. Okay, anyway. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, everybody, just for the support. I know, like, everybody's been here. Elizabeth, I just met on Thursday, but you guys are all like big, big motivators. So thank you.
Fun. We're vibing with you, girl.
I'm vibing with you.
Love what you do, Jen.
Thanks. Back at you.
Yay. So Jen, when and if you feel called to do this again, the calendar's open to you. We'd love you to come back anytime.
Okay. I do. You know what David was saying. I do want to do a monthly thing. I do.
Perfect. Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to do a monthly thing. I'm just not sure what the topics would be, but I guess there's always something to talk about. So.
And next week for people in person, Rebecca is going to introduce us to her machine.
Yay.
Gosh, yes. If anyone here hasn't heard of that, I have been experimenting over the last several months with some electromagnetic pulse technology that induces altered states of consciousness and enables psychic phenomena such as telepathy and remote viewing. It's really uncanny and weird to experience that firsthand when I would not consider myself a psychic otherwise. But experiencing telepathy firsthand is really something else, and it's weird and it's cool. And I am going to be teaching people how to build this technology for themselves because you can do it affordably. And I did it in like one day. So
Awesome.
we're going to
And
be.
what time are you teaching this?
So I am going to be hosting this at the Kingsgate Library in Kirkland. And it's going to be next Saturday at 2 p.m. in their meeting space there. I have.
Oh, so it's not over Zoom. It's a live thing.
No, it's
Okay.
going to be like live experimentation and
Wow.
some discussion on how the technology works, why it works. And then we're going to have participation from anybody who wants to try it. And we will do some telepathy and remote viewing experiments.
It might be fun to have people on Zoom anyway, and at least hear, the background and see it working, and be
Yeah,
people doing telepathy on them.
yeah, I won't have my own like capability to host it on Zoom while I am running the event, because my laptop is going to be running the programs on Arduino while that's happening. So
Maybe you'll just have to do it again, a Zoom version.
I will be I will be doing this again, and I'll probably even I'll host maybe a Zoom call where we just talk about how the technology works and have like questions and answers and like talk about the history and stuff.
That
Yeah.
sounds fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Will
Yeah,
you be
this
able to
technology's
share
been
the
out for
schematics
like
and the
20
design?
years. What's that?
Will you be able to share the schematics and or the design of the build?
Definitely.
Okay.
And it will also include the Arduino programs and a shopping list to buy the parts. I'll probably even host a workshop and we can all build them together, because
That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be
is
awesome.
it's definitely not hard to start working with Arduino. This was my first Arduino project.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't take that long to do that part of it. It's really wrapping the coil around the ring that goes around your head. That takes time.
Now, is this enhanced right now because of the solar flares that we're all experiencing as well?
I would say it has more to do with the Schumann resonance of the Earth, because the reason why this works is that it deflects the 40 hertz component of your brain. And
Okay.
that's basically what it does, is it allows the magnetite crystals in your brain, which you have millions of in your brain.
Okay.
All conscious creatures have these magnetite crystals. When you are able to receive information, when that 40 hertz component is deflected momentarily, it's kind of like it kind of takes the shield down, if you will, from your consciousness. So then you're able to access information with the magnetic field of your brain and connect it with the Earth's magnetic field. That is my theory on how psychic phenomena works on a scientific basis.
Right.
And so this is all not woo, this is all neuroscience where I got this from. And if you want to look at this stuff for yourself, I'll just drop some names in the chat.
Well, but we all realize that woo today is different than woo yesterday, because 100 years ago, woo was so broad scale and spectrum that we didn't understand it, but yet the forces of nature have been proven and been discovered that everything that we have been doing is real and solid. We just didn't understand it. So it's us
Yeah.
that is behind the curve. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
All right. And then there's, I love that you love that because I love it too. You can find videos on the build information and the instructions on a YouTube channel from Museum of Tarot, all one word. And I'm going to put that in there.
Yay.
Yeah. So there you go. If you guys want to check that out on your own, that's great. I'm going to step off my soapbox because this is not my event. So
Next time.
if you are interested in coming, and you can come this Saturday, you can RSVP on the meetup.com link at the Greater Seattle Non-Toxic Witches meetup group. Thank you, Sherry, for hosting that on Meetup.
Ooh. Didn't we also put it on the other one too?
The Temple of Avalon?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's there.
Okay.
Maybe, but I'm not sure. So you can probably check out either one of those and find it there.
Yeah.
And I will be hosting more of those events plus a workshop. So
Great.
the workshop is probably even going to be something that I can host over Zoom, because it's really just going to be like, hey, let's build this together.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Let's put it on the calendar,
Yeah,
girl.
that sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
a group
It really,
project out of it.
dude, it's amazing too. Like if you don't think that you were psychic before, boy, are you going to know it now. Like it will change the way that you see the world. That's what I've noticed. Also, it has like really interesting after effects. I was not expecting that I would have incredibly vivid dream recall ever since I started using this stuff. And before, I didn't have dreams that I could remember at all, ever, for many, many years. Just hasn't been a thing for me. Now it's like every night.
So if someone's already fairly psychic, their third eye is, reasonably comfortable being open, is this gonna not make a noticeable difference, or are they gonna be like super open and amplified?
It would, yeah. So like that's the thing that I've heard from other people who've been using this technology. The guy that runs Museum of Tarot, he's been getting feedback from people that have been using this technology, and their feedback is that if I'm already a psychic person, it just makes it more
Just amplifies
accurate,
it.
or you get more information than you would otherwise normally get.
And you said it was pretty cheap to build. About like, what's the estimate cost? So I can budget for it.
Depending on the price of the parts, and I'm also taking inflation into consideration, between $30 and $100.
Oh, okay. Easy.
And
All right.
and then you can just run it off of your computer with a USB. You just connect it to the USB, and then when you run the programs through Arduino, that provides all the power that you would need. It's incredibly low power. It's a very weak magnetic field. It is not more powerful than stereo headphones. But all the same, if you have a pacemaker or an electronic medical device, I would not recommend using something like this, because it's experimental technology. It hasn't been tested by the FDA, and it's not intended to be used with medical electronic devices, because it might interfere with them. Yeah.
That's okay. I'll give it a run and I'll let you guys know, because I've got a CGM, and I've got an insulin pump. So we'll give it a try. And if it fries them, then I'll just pull them off. That's okay.
Oh my
And I'm good
gosh.
with that.
So if Steven doesn't die, we're good.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. See,
I don't
that's
know.
good. If my insulin pump doesn't freak
Light
out,
ourselves on fire and throw ourselves out the window like Proton.
Gosh.
yeah, right.
Welcome to Rebecca's Human Sacrifice Hour.
Yes, yes. Well, see, the unfortunate part is I can't even make it. I can't make it for the in-person just because of plans. But it's funny because I can tell you my insulin pump, if it starts going, all I got to do is rip it off. And my CGM, it's reading. It doesn't transmit, or it transmits out. It doesn't do anything internally. So either one of those, I can tell you that they don't get affected by other like even X-rays or
Yeah.
scanning machines.
Yes, it sounds
So,
pretty low risk. Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very.
So what exactly, like what kind of components would I be purchasing here? Are we talking about metal wires or what?
Yeah, you need to get like 50 feet of a 16 gauge copper wire.
Okay.
That's going to be like the one that you have to coil around of.
Is that like something I can get at Home Depot, or do I have to order that online?
I would
they'll
order
send
it
me
online.
2 at least.
If you find it at Home Depot, they might be like too long or not long enough. And you want it to be exactly that length because you do have to take that whole length of cord and wrap it around a hoop. And the hoop is
Okay.
an embroidery hoop. You take the metal piece out of it because you don't want to have any other metal in the thing.
Okay.
And then you build, you're going to need to build a little breadboard, a little circuit breadboard with Arduino, load the program into Arduino, and then connect that to your computer. So like wrapping the coil is a time intensive kind of process. It's a pain in the butt if you lose your place because it will uncoil and then you need to recoil it and tighten it.
Have you ever wrapped crystals? Because that can be tedious. So this is nothing. It's actually a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Gauge, Rebecca, of the copper wire, what gauge?
16.
Here, you know, let me find the if you guys are interested, I will get the little build list.
Yeah, I need to drop, but I thank you guys very much. I've got to get things accomplished before the wedding I have to go to today. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I can't be there next week for this event. I would absolutely love to be there, but I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Yeah, I would attend, but
wedding.
I'm in California. Yeah.
Have a good wedding, Stephen.
Yeah.
Kill
Thank you,
anybody.
Stephen.
Have a good wedding.
See you, man. So, Rebecca, when I was a kid for like a science fair project or whatever, I had made an electromagnetic coil where we wrapped copper wire around like a rod or something. So is it the same kind of idea? Like you're just making it as tight as possible and just doing lots and lots of loops around something?
Yeah. Let me show you what it looks like.
Well, I gotta go. See you guys.
Bye, Elizabeth. Thank
Bye,
you.
Elizabeth.
Have a good day.
You too.
So this is what the wire looks like when you coil it around the hoop.
Okay, yeah, so it's pretty tight. Okay.
Pretty tight. Some electrical tape will help to hold it on there so that it doesn't uncoil itself after you've wrapped it around a bunch of times. And I have 2 portable devices and they operate off of a 9-volt battery.
Can you like put that around your head or something?
Yeah. So I use a cosmetic like a cap to go around it, or you could use like a plastic shower cap just so that it rests over your head and isn't touching against, like one part of your head. So you have like a big gap on the back. You don't want it to be like right up tight against any other part of your head.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking for the I'm looking for the little parts list thing. Materials. You know, I'm not finding it on the same website where I originally found it, but I do have